I'm going to teach you a video sales letter framework, which will mean you never need to write a script and you actually come off more human in your video sales letters rather than reading off a script and becoming incredibly robotic. Because about half a decade ago, I launched a DJ school where you'd learn to DJ clubs in a club during the day when it wasn't being used. I think I was like 23 or 24 at the time. I was incredibly time poor because I was trying to launch this, trying to launch like a marketing agency. I think I was DJing at the time and I was a promotions manager somewhere, and I had like a lot on my plate. And so like most startup, small or medium-sized business owners, I was incredibly time poor. So I didn't have time to sit down and like write out this script, like carefully word it with all this neurolinguistic programming stuff. Like I didn't have time for that. So I needed a system where I could just sit down and just basically just like pitch the product without having to put too much thought into it. And I still remember to this day, like the way the VSL framework came about was prior to a sales call, I wish I still had the piece of paper, but I just had like a little A4 piece of paper. And like 5 minutes before the call, I was like, okay, just say like why the thing happened and like what we do, and then that'll be it. And so the pitch on the call was basically like why the program came about, because me and the other local Perth DJs noticed that new DJs were just like a deer in the headlights in nightclubs, and the easiest way to fix that was just teach them in actual nightclubs. And so the sales really kind of skyrocketed, albeit like I also had like an incredibly unique offer. No one was teaching people to DJ clubs in an actual club. And then after we had I think we had about 30 enrollments, and the most common bit of feedback that we got from people was like, I know how to DJ now, but how do I get gigs at clubs? And so the next thing that we actually did was I took that feedback and we built this, like we called it the Booking Accelerator. It was an online portal of interviews with established DJs on how to get your first couple of gigs. And so I changed the sales pitch to say basically that story, which was, we were teaching people to DJ in clubs, but the new problem was they actually had to get gigs. And so this was how the feedback story arc evolved. And what I actually did there was the entire feedback story arc. So the feedback story arc serves a couple purposes. So if you're a coach or a consultant or someone in the education space, you're sending people to a landing page and there's a video here, and then you've got like your application, your like calendar or whatever here. Right? And so you need a video here which tells them about the program, how it works, and things like that. Now, one of the common problems that I see with business owners is you've probably been speaking English your entire life, but as soon as a camera, hits record and is stuck in front of you, it's like you're learning English for the first time just that morning. You there's a lot of really weird parts of human evolution, but you 100% know when someone's reading off a script, because it's just, even if they do it well, it's just like a little bit too perfect. Because they're just sitting there like, hi, my name's Brandon, and it's just like way too robotic. And so what you want is a framework where you don't need to sit down and look at this screen and then look at the camera and come off very robotic, because that roboticness also loses a lot of trust with viewers. It's just the weird part of human evolution. If people don't behave in the way that we really expect, we lose a little bit of trust. And so what you want is a framework where you can, even just with maybe just dot points, you can rip out a VSL which will build more trust. And it's called the feedback story arc. So the feedback story arc is basically built with one, the initial feedback you got that triggered the idea for your offer. So for example, in the With You program, the start of our feedback story arc is something like, by the way, if you book a call with the team, this is going to sound real familiar, but it's something along the lines of, up until 2 or 3 years ago, Brandon had to knock away a lot of the people that applied to work with the done for you arm of the business, because it just didn't economically make sense for them to work with us. And then, a bunch of people just asked us hey, I appreciate the transparency, but there's got to be a way we can work together, right? Can you show us how to do this? And then we explained how the 2-day launch pad came about. But rather than just saying, hey, what you get is this 2-day workshop and blah, 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 and just pitching feature, it does a couple of things. One, it shows that you actually listen to the market. It's yeah, I told people this wouldn't work for them, and then they asked for this thing, and I went, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and so I gave it to them. And so the second thing that you do is explain the solution based on the feedback that you got. So for example, for us, so now we sit down with you for 2 days, we point at your screen, we tell you what to click and type, right? It's a little bit longer, but I'm giving you kind of a condensed version there, right? The other benefit of doing a feedback story arc is because I talk about a concept I learned ages ago called red brain versus green brain. Because it's a story, it's far more engaging, rather than you've probably been through a pitch before where they just go, yep, did you get this? Then you get this, then you get this. This is where's this really coming from? And then you're kind of just leaning back and just trying to find holes in it. But when you're told, a story and a narrative, you're kind of leaning in. The third part is the good problem it created. So for example, like in a narrative, like any movie, there's like a little bit of a plot twist to kind of like, you know, hook people and keep them watching. So this essentially serves the same purpose. So for example, in the institute, which is the DJ school, the plot twist was, well, they knew how to DJ, but now they needed to know how to get gigs. And so in the With You program, it's, you know, my ads are live, but, you know, what if the platform changes, right? So it's the new good problem that created. It's like, my ads are live, they're doing well, but the platform changes, the interface changes, I wanted to do better, what do I do now? And so the fourth thing that you do is the basically second solution, because you can basically split your service into like 2, maybe 3 pillars. Like if you're coaching and consulting, it's typically like education and like support or something like that. And so the fourth step is the second solution based on the second bit of feedback that you got, which is like, this is good, but this. So how do you address that? And then the fifth part is just a basic summary. So between these 2 pillars, which is step 2 and step 4, you get this and this, just so they follow the entire arc. And it's basically just like if you consider it like an essay that you might have done like year 11 or year 12, it's basically the conclusion, like, hey, between these 2 things, you get this and this, so that you can achieve this outcome. It's by far the easiest VSL framework to do, because you don't need to think about it too much. Because as the business owner, and I'm assuming you're the business owner watching this, you've been there for the entire duration of your business. So you know every single thing that's happened, that's evolved your product and your offer and made it better and refined it. And so by simply just telling the story of how, you know, 2 of the things that you do came about, you'll film a remarkably convincing video sales letter that doesn't come off robotic and forced and scripted, because it's simply you sitting there telling the story of how things came about. Comes off very organic, because you probably talk about, or at least you would like to perhaps talk about your business a lot and all the struggles and, you know, things that you found. And it gives you an opportunity to do that. And so that energy that comes off, it will come through the camera. For example, like this is obviously going to be a picture with you, but if you click the link in the description, that's Aiden probably remembers when I filmed the video that's at the top of that link. I think I came out of a meeting, he already had the camera set up like he did now. I just sat down, just took the entire thing. It's like, all right, cool. And I think I realized, I was like, that was pretty good, wasn't it? It's like, yeah, there were like literally like no pauses. I think he had to cut out like maybe 2 ums or something like that. And so if you click the link in the description, you can watch that VSL as a little bit of an example. And if it convinces you, you can apply for the With You program below. See you there.